Happy Sunday 220, and happy Father's Day to the fathers out there and to the other important men in people's lives. I hope you're all enjoying a really nice day, even though it's raining, at least here in New Hampshire. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things that are coming up in the class this week, and just to sort of highlight, clarify, and always remind you that I'm completely open to conversation over the phone, in my office, in the library, if we're getting to a point in the semester where I think it's really important to stay in touch. So on that note, we're in week 6, which means that we are focusing this week on revising our first essay. And that takes a couple of different components. One is that obviously you put a lot of work into your original draft, which is great. I've started to take a peek at many of them. You receive some peer feedback, and you will receive feedback from me. And the way that's going to work is that in grades, I'm actually able to record an audio. So when you go to your grades for Essay 2 workshop, you'll find that there's an audio there from me. And those should be posted by at the latest Wednesday morning. And basically it's going to be me talking through your essay, and I like to focus on two major things. One, the content, right? Did your essay meet the needs of the assignment, which would be, did we talk about the context of the moment and what the change was? And were we able to pull out pieces of rhetoric, excerpts from pieces of rhetoric that talked about how that change happened? What was really promising this week is that I just read through all your rhetorical analyses, the exercise we did 10 days ago or so, and those were excellent. Some of the best ones I've ever gotten on this exercise, because what you did was you gave context, and then you did a really close reading of the rhetoric, which means you pulled out excerpts and you explained those excerpts. I gave higher grades on this exercise than I ever have in the 3 semesters where we've done this project. So congratulations. What that says to me, and what I started to see in your drafts, is that that was a necessary step for a lot of people, and it ended up improving the quality of your first essay. So I'm going to look at those two content, right? The two components, context, and then an explanation of the rhetoric and a close reading of the rhetoric. And the second thing I think is important, and is always important in the first essay, is that I'm going to look at formatting, in-text citations, works cited, how much research was cited in the actual paper. And I differ from some of my colleagues in that I do think writing is formulaic in a lot of ways. I think it's the thinking and the content is original, but the actual composition is follows a formula. So you'll hear me refer a lot back to what I call the short essay guide. If you haven't looked at it, I highly encourage you to do that. It kind of gives you an idea of really what should be in an essay in terms of an introduction, what body paragraph should look like, clear topic sentence, research, analysis, conclusion. It's the repetition of good research writing. My peers and I certainly agree on that. We just teach it differently. So I think it's important to look at that second page of the short essay guide and ask yourself, are my paragraphs doing the work they need to do? Are they set up in a strong structural way? And that isn't difficult to do, and it does not take away, I think, from the integrity or the originality of your writing. It just means you understand, just like a math equation, you understand the correct equation to reach the appropriate output. So you will hear me refer back to that guide. So, and that's where things get nitty gritty, like your ideas are really exciting, but then we also have to ensure that your writing follows proper academic guidelines, and it's my responsibility to make sure that's happening. It's like showing your work in math. So you'll get my comments via audio. Make sure you do take a look at two things. One, there's an essay rubric and a short essay guide. They're all under writing materials. It's the first module when you go to modules. The second piece of the week is continuing work, obviously, on Project 2. I've had a lot of good questions. I know this project can be really intimidating because I'm asking you to sort of go out in the community and have some outreach about your topic. And I just think it's so essential that we don't sit behind computer screens and assess and critically think the problems of the world, because it's not good enough. And you are the next educated class of citizens. And if that's the way we're going to operate without that investment level, without really touching base, like, we can do things cognitively that are amazing. That's what education's about. But education's also about empathy and broadening our perspectives to the experience of others. And I think we can only do that with having some bravery and courage and going out and trying to connect with the people either who are working in your community conflict, experiencing your community conflict. And this doesn't necessarily have to be an expert, and I like to say that out loud. It just needs to be somebody that you're actually having a conversation with, someone who's being affected by this conflict. Because if not, then we're going to do good research and we're going to offer a solution that feels a little hollow because we haven't actually connected with a human being who's experiencing this. So if you need my help, I can certainly connect you to community organizations, but I'm talking, you could have a very good candid conversation, let's just say with a friend of yours who is going through an opioid addiction. That's a good interview. That's a solid interview for this essay. We want to hear from the humanity of it. So I will take phone-in conversations. I'll take email conversations. One-on-one conversations are obviously the best because you're usually right there in front of somebody, which is great. But I will take these interviews in multimedia ways so that they're done. I don't want them to slow you down from the process. So this week, you have until actually next Wednesday to complete your interviews, the 26th, and to do the research exercise. And the research exercise is very, very similar to the research exercise we did for Project 1. It sends you back to the academic resources. And the only difference is that it also asks you to find some local research, which your interviews are one of those things. And then, is there anything that's been happening in the local newspapers with your topic? Have there been town halls? And I say it's completely optional, but if you can get an observation of your conflict, let's say I've had students whose mothers or fathers have worked in the ER and they've sort of just sat in the waiting room and watched. And if you want to talk about the opioid crisis in New Hampshire right now, sit in an emergency room. If you want to talk about the mental health crisis in New Hampshire right now, sit in an emergency room. I would never want you to do anything you're uncomfortable with or that's dangerous. It's just that the more you can connect, the more invested you are on this project, and the more life-changing it can be. Because if education's not life-changing, what are we all doing? What are we all doing here? Getting a degree, getting a piece of paper. So I encourage you to make it as life-changing as you can, and be safe, obviously. So the research exercises and the community interviews, I'm giving you, additional week and a half to complete those because I know it takes time. So your revision is number one, and then the second piece is your research for Essay 2, and Essay 2 won't be due until June 30th, right before 4th of July. I give you an Essay 2 planning sheet that you do not have to fill out, but I encourage you to look at it because it tells you kind of, if I had to break Essay 2 down into 4 sections or components, that's what they are. So it's explain the conflict. Are there arguments happening about the conflict? What are the consequences if we don't solve it? And what are we going to do to solve it? The persuasive moment in this essay is really important. It's logos, which means what's a logical solution for probably a very pathos problem. And that's why we did the all dogs this week, because it was give me the logical conclusion to a very pathos argument, and that's what we need to try to do in Essay 2, which is hard, but because it's so emotional, logic will probably rule in the end, and let's find that. So I appreciate all your efforts so far. Please stay in close touch with me, and let me know how I can help. Okay, have a great rest of your Sunday. Good luck next week in the class, and stay in touch.